All right, what's up? Welcome to the third episode of this season of the R&R cast, and I'm super, super pumped because today I have the front man of probably one of the hottest Central Tennessee hard rock bands, Scottie from Artifas. How are you doing, man?
Doing fantastic, man. How are you?
Heck yeah, I'm awesome. So I have such a laundry list of things I wanted to ask you, but I think
Okay.
personally, my favorite thing about Artifice, or one of them, is when people think rock bands out of Tennessee, they think they're either from Nashville or Memphis. You maybe Knoxville, maybe Chattanooga, but you guys are from Jackson, man. I wanted to start at the beginning. And what's it like being in a band that formed, in a smaller town in Tennessee, not one of the major music hubs?
It's got to be I know it's so different, because I've spent some time in bigger cities now and have seen just like all the different avenues there are to, go after more opportunity to, go after your passion. And like the town I grew up in, there weren't any bands, like I literally learned some of my first like guitar riffs from this dude that lived down the street in this little trailer. And my mom was like, don't you be around that guy. So I'd park my bike behind his house and like go in and he'd show me some guitar and then I'd leave. And I mean, really, like even the whole game coming up, from it really just starts as something that's just fun and hobby, and and then you turn into trying to figure out how to grow that and make a business out of it and everything. And coming from around this area, there's absolutely no one to help us try to figure any of that out. So we learned everything the hard way, just making all the mistakes and figuring out what not to do, mostly, for a
Yeah,
very, very long time. And
yeah.
we just kind of came into a spot where we know more people now, and we made some more connections, and it's still tough, but
Mhm.
we don't stop.
Well, I mean, it's just super impressive looking at your guys' live show roster of who you've played with. When you guys started gigging, I mean, there's not a whole lot of places in and around Jackson that touring bands go. Like, where'd you guys play?
So back in the really towards the beginning of this band and the end of our other bands, uh, there used to be like some really good venues around the Jackson area. And every now and they didn't have like consistently national touring acts, but they'd bring one out in every now and then. And there's a radio station here, 102.3 The Rocket, and they still are putting on shows, and not a lot of radio stations are really doing that kind of thing anymore. Like not as much as they used to, but even back in the day, like there was some little rock stations here and there, and they were throwing little like festivals and stuff, and there'd be 1,500 people there. It'd be a good time for like some local bands. And so really, and even a lot of times we kind of just created our own spots, where we'd be like, hey, this is a big parking lot, well, the business is here, let us use it, and call it parking lot of Palooza, and we'll have 15 bands play. And but yeah, even still today, it's kind of weird, like there's not any consistent music venues in the Jackson area. Like when we play in Jackson, we usually either rent out a club, or there's a new place that's called Hub City Brewing that we just played with Saliva, and it's a really nice venue, but they're just they have shows every now and then. It's not a very like consistent thing, and I'm hoping they turn it more into that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because I know that Saliva show was just over like a week ago. When you're playing
Mm-hmm.
a show like that in Jackson, do you see some of the people that would have been to like your first shows? Do they still come out and see you guys? Like, do you recognize some faces in the crowd?
Uh, so we don't play in Jackson, but like 2 to 3 times, maybe 4 times a year
Hmm.
tops. And so even if we're playing just by ourselves, like we're usually pulling about 600-700 heads in there. So we knew that we were going to give Saliva like something to show them. And we were like, all right, it's a Sunday, and as soon as like people start walking in the door, I'm like, all right, I know all these people, and so it was really cool, because like before we went on, and the hometown crowds chanting Artifice, and just really got me hyped up, and like feeling like, hey, our town's behind us. And that just feels good after so many years of trying to work that to that point.
Dude, I love it, man. One of the main things that I really wanted to talk to you about is like small town rock scenes. And I know one of the reasons I first found out about you guys probably about 2 years ago was through the Warehouse in Clarksville.
Yeah,
They're my all-time favorite venue, and it
right.
pains me that they're closing. And I wanted to ask you, like, what in your opinion is like, why is it important that small towns keep venues like that alive? You know, why is it important that touring bands like yourselves, now I would say you're a big touring band, you know, why do you feel like it's important that you guys and other bands like you still come to the small towns and play?
Well, like, so there's sometimes you'll find in the weirdest spots just this crazy little culture, of people that just like going out on the weekends and banging their heads and like supporting bands and giving them a place to sleep and feeding them and and sometimes a lot of times those are the ones that aren't in the bigger cities,
Hmm.
and there is something to a small town, so like a hometown culture, like you said, the Warehouse, that place has had a culture. Like there's always like um a certain kind of vibe there, and people just enjoyed coming to shows there. It was like wasn't always like the best PA and stuff in there, but it was always slamming, it was always a lot of
Absolutely.
energy and like just like good people working there. And that's everything, is the people running the place. uh, like I don't know if you know the Machine Shop in Flint, Michigan.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. So that place is in like the most unexpected location. It's like a pretty like sketchy little part of town. And but you pull up, and the first time we pull up, they're like, "You guys need laundry done?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of." And they're like, "All right, give it to us." And I'm just like you're gonna go do my laundry? Like, are you serious?
Dude, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, so they had runners everywhere and like a whole like trailer back there for us to chill in, and just really took care of us and made sure everything we wanted was done. And if we asked for something, like the answer, even if they didn't know, was yes. And venues that operate in that fashion tend to have a culture of people that want to make it succeed as fans. So
Hmm.
like the Machine Shop, it doesn't matter, you could be nobody, and you're likely to play in front of a few hundred people even if they've never heard you go in there. It's just one of those spots that people dig going to see live music.
Hmm. Absolutely, dude. No, I was gonna ask. There's a lot of venues I've seen you guys play that I know or I believe are like that. Like Shag Nasties. I mean, I would say is
Yeah,
probably definitely one of those. You guys are there with Puddle of Mud in September,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Heck
that'll be
yeah,
the
dude.
second time with us doing Puddle of Mud, and both times in Huntsville, Alabama area. So if for some reason when Puddle of Mud comes to Alabama, it's us and them.
Dude, that's so sick, man. And was the other one at Shag Nasties too, or was that somewhere else?
No, there actually used to be this place, that a venue that was like attached to the end of a bowling alley called 11th Frame.
Hmm.
And it was cool, man. It was another one of those spots where it was like building this culture up. And then the gentleman that owned the place passed away, and the family didn't continue it. But Huntsville's a really cool spot. Like people like to go to shows there.
Yeah, I've been to a number. I was actually planning to go down and see you guys were out with Discrepancies, one of
Oh, yeah.
top band, and then that was the Nonpoint tour, right? And
Yeah, man.
I wanted to ask you about that tour, man, because that tour package is just phenomenal. Like, what was it like touring with those guys?
Man, it was great because like you sometimes, even if it's a really good band, you might not have consistent energy through the
Hmm.
show. And every band, like, uh was just killing it. Like everybody was energetic, the music was energetic, the crowd was energetic from the start of the show to the end. Every night was just like you were wore out by the end of the night, because it was just like nonstop in your face. Man, it was a lot of fun. And the
Dude,
Non-Point guys were so great. uh they treated us really well, and the Discrepancies dudes, like we got really close with those guys, and they're some cool cats, and I got a lot of respect for them.
yeah, they were awesome. I wanted to ask, man. I mean, like I said, your touring repertoire of people you've been out with is awesome. And I just like, when did it turn from you guys being a local band to going out on tour? Like, when was the flip? When did it kind of start? When did you guys start becoming like a touring act? You know?
So really, that was like the goal from the very get-go. So um, Cody and I started talking back in 2011, and he and I had been in different local bands. And both of us had ended up in situations where like we wanted to go that extra step and risk it all. And everybody else in our band, had jobs or, good job prospects or was starting a family and didn't want to do it. So me and Cody were like, well, let's find three other dudes that just will give up anything and everything. And we did. And we found three other guys and we went and bought a $1,200 van. And before we ever even played a show, and we really only played a handful of just local here and there shows before we started touring. Now, when I say touring, like in those early days, like it was rough. We'd go play at some place and there would be three people there and the promoter hands me, $18 at the end of the night. It's like, have a good night. It's like, all right, cool. We got to drive 5 hours to Texas now.
Yeah.
We only made enough to buy a couple like McDonald's meals. And
Yeah.
and we would even do car washes. Like if we ran out of money, we'd go on a day off to a Advanced Auto Parts and do like free car washes and accept donations. And we had burnt CDs that we'd give out, if somebody donated $1 or something. And
That's
like
so cool.
literally, like we literally just have hustled from day one and just haven't stopped. And like being on the road is tough at times, but being out there in front of people constantly, even if it's some nights it's smaller crowds, some nights it's killer crowds, and you just have to put on the same show every night, and just hopefully keep turning those wheels and turning over new fans, and that's just what keeps us going. Especially like in this world where social media is so overwhelming,
Hmm.
I guess is a good word for it.
Yeah, perfect. Right on the money right there, dude.
It's just we really like that old school approach of like just grinding and touring and gaining fans that see us live. And you we still try to stay consistent with like content and putting stuff up, but we're not trying to be a YouTube band and
Yeah.
just be one of those bands and like we want to be that's why I really look up to bands like Seven Dust. Like those guys have just been grinding since day one and they've never stopped, and they've always been like at a sustainable level as a band, to whereas a lot of bands will shoot way up, they'll have a hit song, and they'll blow their money or get hooked on drugs or a million other stories and just straight down, and then they'll try to pull themselves back up 8 years down the road, and they kind of ride this plateau where Seven Dust has just consistently been at the top of the game. And like that's something I really respect, and it's because of hard work.
Well, believe me, man. I'm a fan of you guys. I love you guys, and coming from the fan side of me, whenever I go to a show in the Southeast, if it's a good like club show, like eh, when people are talking about like hot bands in the area, like who's cool, who's on the rise, you guys consistently, like every show, whether it's Huntsville or Birmingham or anywhere in Tennessee,
That's
like
good to hear,
people
man.
love you guys, and so it's really cool. I mean, I have a dozen stories about random Artifice moments, where like for example, I was at a From Ashes to New Fire from the Gods show in Huntsville.
Both dope bands.
Amazing bands, amazing
Yeah.
band. That was probably in March, and there was an older gentleman that was walking in the bathroom as I was leaving, with my Artifice shirt on, and I complimented him on it, and he had like just the amount of good stuff that this guy that I just randomly met could say about you guys was just super impressive. Like he was just talking about, he's like, oh, I've seen these guys like 4 times, and every time it's just the show just gets better, and it was super cool to hear. So
Yeah, man, that's like we really do have like the best, fans, where we might not have as many as per se for like From Ashes to New, but we're getting there.
mhm.
We're gonna get there. But the fans that we make are, I think they see how much passion we have and how genuine we are about the music we play and what we do and how much we love and push for it, and that
Mhm.
that gives everybody a little push to get behind us, and it's awesome. So like we call that our Arta family, where bands will have like the whatever army or this
Yeah.
street team, so that's our Arta family, and like that's really what it is. It's a big family to us. If we're up in Wisconsin and got, you know, a day off, we're gonna go kick it with our boy Jack, you know. And if we're in Alabama, got a day off, we're gonna go hang out with our buddy Jeff and Jason, and you know, we just like we want to be around these people. Like they're people that like they all have great stories. You know what I mean? Like everybody truly has an amazing story, you know, and that's one of my favorite things is like going out and just talking to different people of, you know, all different creeds and religions and races, and you know, just seeing really at the end of it, we all have a whole lot in common,
Well,
and that's a special thing.
and I think that really speaks to your guys' longevity as like, you know, every release that keeps building on the last one in terms of like you growing the following. And, you know, I think there's a reason you guys have been, you know, on such a good upward climb, at least the way I see it. Like, I feel like every tour you guys play just looks more crazy than the last one, and everything, you know, builds on top of one another.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like a staircase that's just like endless at times, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, and that I think that's another reason. Like, there was a period, like, you know, we've been around for a while, and there was a period where, you know, we had labels and booking agents and stuff telling us, well, you guys aren't the new thing. You know, you guys have been around, you know, and for a while that really kind of like bummed me out. I'm like, God, like, what do I have to change the name of our band in order for you to give a, you know, damn about what we're doing? And
Yeah.
then I was just like, you know what? There's something to be said about that, though, you know, and I'm sure that that makes the fans want to stay in it more, knowing like, hey, these guys aren't just going to give up in a year or two, you know, like they're going to stay going out there, and this is something I can love, you know, for a longevity, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, you know, that's something we always try to do is step up the game and give our fans more. And like this new record we did, it's tough. The songs are tough live, and and we're pushing ourselves to the absolute extreme. You know, we might not be like up there laying down licks like Periphery, but
Yeah.
we're trying. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's your sound, you know, like you guys
right?
have such a just. I mean, it's when I hear an Artifas song on Spotify Shuffle, you know, it's not like, oh, they sound like, you know, this band, like that's an Artifas song, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you guys
Yeah,
have such a sound, and I think I was talking to Eric from the Warehouse on the phone earlier today,
yeah,
and something I think that really separates you guys from so many other bands now is when I was talking to him, I was like, oh, dude, like I'm zooming Scottie from Artifas later. And he was like, the first thing he said wasn't, you know, I love their music. Like, he was like, oh, I love those guys. You know, it's like, you know,
yeah,
people
yeah,
people don't just love you for the music; they love you guys, which I think is it's a hard thing to get now with social media, because it's harder to, I feel like, have a personal connection with bands, you know. And I sort of think you guys have nailed just like the personal connection with people outside of just making TikToks. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that really just goes down to like, we've really tried to make sure, you know, that every member that came into this band, you know, from the get go, you know, all the way from the very beginning, you know, when it was Chris and Ben and TJ, you know, we like, all right, hey, we're gonna live in a van together every day. Like, like everybody's got to be at least a good dude, you know,
Hmm.
and responsible and passionate, you know, and that's something like we've tried to always stick to. Now we we can get wild, you know, but we know when to and how to. And you know, we got Jared and Mikey and Anthony came into the band, and we're all just like outstanding people, and everybody's constantly learning. You know, Anthony literally just learned how to make videos and do them well. Like a lot of our content and a lot of the stuff we put out is shot or collected and edited by him, and he puts them together, and all of our promo stuff. And now he's learning like 3D, trying to learn like 3D animation and whatnot. And
Hmm.
you know, Cody and I like really dug into the recording realm. As you can see, this
Yeah,
is
dude,
my
that's impressive, man. I'm in a dorm, bro. Why'd you have to show me up like that?
Hey, but you know, you got a cool little background going on.
Yeah, dude, I try. I try, man. I've got half the posters on this side are warehouse show posters. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of picked an avenue and said, hey, let's improve myself in this so that it can help this. And, now we got Steve, the new guy in the band, the new drummer, and he's been a new breath of fresh air for us and kind of like reignited our flame with he's just always like positive. Like,
Yeah.
you can wake up at 4 a.m. with a blown out tire and he's like, how's everybody doing today?
Yeah.
And so it's hard to be in a bad mood around him. And, so like we've always tried to make sure first and foremost, like whoever's a part of this band, like the playing is important, but the person is more important.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've had better players in different auditions in different positions, and they just weren't the right person, the right fit as a personality. And, that's something that we've kind of stuck with, and not kind of, that we've very much so stuck with. And we try to put ourselves out there. And even on our worst days, like if we're in a super bad mood, or maybe a couple of us got in a fight because we've been around each other too much, but like when we walk onto that stage and when we're talking to fans, like that all goes away, like they're there to see us. They're there to talk to us and hang out and experience us without our BS, going on.
Yeah.
And, so I think just holding ourselves to that standards has helped us connect with a lot of people. And even no matter how big of a success, like in certain places, like, here at hometown, where it's slammed, like we always come out, we always go to the merch booth. We always come out and watch the other bands, like just try to hold ourselves to a good standard of character. And if anybody starts swaying, it's like, hey man, you need to get that together or we're going to have to figure something out, So that's really important to us.
And I love that about you guys. Like every aspect of your band, from every person I've ever talked to at venues or whatever that mentions you guys, it's all family, which is super cool. And I think I was going to ask you this. We talked a minute ago about how you guys aren't a YouTube band. You're not like a social media, like you're not trying to make it big in that way. So I wanted to ask you this: like, how do you feel like most people find you guys? And then sort of, I'm sure it's there's a number of reasons we already talked about, but sort of what do you think people like, what sort of, when you draw in a new fan, like what makes them stick around? And we just sort of talked about part of it, but
I think first and foremost is the live show. I think that's really where we shine. And it's because we go out there and just kill ourselves for 45 minutes, And like there's so many nights where I've just like throw up at the end of the show just because I'm so like, like when you used to run in gym and you're like, I can't run anymore. And, so I think the live show, like we all, like if you're going to be in this band, you're going to move, and like, even if you got to figure out how to move, you better start figuring it out and learning it. Cause like, that's our bread and butter as a band. And that's really, we always struggled with like having that translate to recordings. And like the Inhuman album was great. Justin Reimer did a great job on it, but you listen to those songs live and you're just like, oh, it's got a whole new kind of stank to it, And so that's what we tried to capture with this new record, Reflections. And that's why we chose to just produce it ourselves. Because we were like, we don't need it. Like, it sounds cocky, and I don't mean it cocky, because there's great producers out there that I'd love to write songs with and do some writing with. And but it's like, I felt like we needed an experience where we didn't have anybody telling us what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like we kind of knew, we knew what we wanted, and we knew what the sound we wanted and the kind of mix we wanted and the guitar tones we wanted and how we wanted the songs to go. And we wanted to make a record that we wanted to listen to. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day. And there's on that record, there's a lot of varying, sounds, everything from like Angels Lead the Way, which is a little softer, and like Hollow's a little more, mellow and melancholy. And then you got like Wannabe, which is just like mean and heavy. And we just wanted to do whatever we wanted and like have nobody say you can't go this direction, or maybe you're going in the wrong direction. We were like, let's do this all ourselves, be so happy with the product, love it, want to listen to it, And if it completely falls and flops, like, hey, we gave it everything we got, you
Mhm.
know. But if it succeeds, you know, then awesome.
Yeah. Where have you guys already started thinking about the next album or the next release? Is that in the cards
Yeah,
yet?
yeah, we're actually using this time home from being on the road. Next week we're gonna start getting together. We've all been kind of just writing riffs here and there at home, and next week we're gonna start getting together and banging some stuff out. And we've got some things in the works that are pretty cool that I can't talk about yet.
I got
But
you. I got you. Well, I'm looking
but
forward to him nonetheless.
yeah, but I'm pretty excited about it. And another thing, like I've been tossing this idea. You know, we met with I know a lot of really great producers. You know, Dave Cal out of Memphis, Colt Caparoon out of Nashville. Those guys are awesome and friends of mine, and I've learned a lot from them. And I've never done. I take that back. I did some songs with Dave back in my one of my old bands, but we broke up before it ever got finished. So
Mhm.
I haven't ever completed anything with him. And then we met some producers when Cody and I went out to L.A. Last month, or a month and a half ago, whenever it was. And you know, we met a couple of really cool producers up there, some guys that do completely different stuff than us, like one guy that does like Juice World, and one guy that worked on some of the new Limp Bizkit Dad
Oh
Vibes
heck yes, dude! I love
stuff,
that album.
and another guy that has this killer studio in place that his I guess claim to success was the Zoom 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 song from the Mazda commercials.
Oh,
Zoom Zoom Zoom. So he wrote that. And
dude,
but he's got this like killer studio. He's a cool dude and he knows his stuff. And so we've been talking to these different guys, and I kind of just want to go do a song at all these different studios with these different guys that I vibe with, you know, and just be like, you know, here's what it came out sounding like working with him, and here's what it came out sounding like working with him.
I love
And
it.
I think that could turn into something cool.
No, absolutely, man. And speaking on new music, even though we can't talk about that yet, I wanted to ask you this. I mean, you guys were just out with Modern Mimes, incredible band. I love those guys.
Absolutely.
So I was going to say, if you were to build a lineup for like the tour for the next album cycle or the next release, like who are some bands you would want to bring out with you guys?
Oh man. Um, if we were headlining or if we were opening for somebody.
We'll do both, man. I'm
All
I'm
right.
curious on both.
Opening for us, we loved Modern Mimes. Those guys were and gal, you know, they were great. They were a lot of fun. Would love to have them back out. Um, Rosa, our friends in Roses Unread,
Yep.
you know, they haven't got to do a lot of touring, and they're a great band, and I'd love to take them out on the road. They'd have a blast. Um, the toughest part about this is that a lot of the bands that we've toured with and that have came out with us are no longer bands. COVID took a lot of bands from us. A lot of bands broke up or went new directions or changed members, and members went to other bands. And
Yeah, absolutely.
so uh, every band I start to think of, I'm like, oh, they're not together anymore. They're not together anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But if we were going out with a band, I really think the ideal band for us to go out with, and I would be super stoked about it, would be Nothing More.
Oh, bro.
Uh,
They're
they're just
great. They're
they're
great.
incredible, and their live shows incredible, and they're great musicians. And we got to play with them in Destin one time, and we watched them sound check, and then they rehearsed for like an hour and a half, and I was just like, these guys are machines, man.
Yeah.
And so I definitely would love to go out with them. Would love to go out with Shinedown. I've always been a big fan of them, especially a lot of their older stuff, but I still dig a lot of their new stuff. Um, if it was bands that now I'm a huge fan of, but like a lot of people might not know,
Yeah.
is I'm into a lot of Australian bands. So there's a band called Carnival with a Karnivool, and Dead Letter Circus, and then Silverchair. I'm a huge
I know
fan of
them.
like,
I know them. I do
yeah,
know them.
I'm a huge fan of '90s rock, and 12-Foot Ninja.
Heck yes. Heck
Love those
yes.
guys. They're wild. So yeah, any of those bands I would be stoked to go out with.
Well, dude, I want to see you guys out with your blind anxiety partners in crime and Lydia Can't Breathe, man. Those guys are sick.
You know, I've literally heard their name for probably 10 years and seen their flyers, and I've listened to some of their stuff, but I've never come across them. We've never played with them. Like, but I see them and people talk about them everywhere. So like, yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
I hear they're super good dudes, and I hear they do a killer live show.
Oh yeah, my old band opened up for them at the warehouse back in September, and they were just, I mean, unreal. It was like an arena show in the in the club. It was sick.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, man. So and actually, subsequently enough, my new band got offered to open for you guys on the 9th this month, and I couldn't make it because I was out of town. So I was
Oh
pretty
no.
upset, but I was
Well,
sad about that, man.
we'll definitely have to make it happen
Oh,
again.
dude, I would love that, man. No, but so I have one final question before we wrap things up here. This is I like asking band members this. So for people that might not have heard you guys live yet, or might not have heard you guys at all, what would you say like 3 essential Artifas tracks, like from the whole catalog, that you would recommend to somebody who hasn't heard you guys? That would be a good.
Woo! I'd have to do. Oh my gosh, 3. This is like the hardest. This is like
it's like picking
like
your
round
favorite
up all
kids.
your kids, and you can take 3 of them, and you have to burn the rest. You know?
Yeah.
I would say, I think "Leave Me for Dead" off the new record. It's a toss-up between "Inhuman" and "Blood for Blood" on the last record, and then
you got to pick one from Enemy Inside, man. You got to pick one from the
one from
first.
Enemy Inside.
Gotta grab one from there.
I would say Broken Wings, but I think maybe Suffocate.
I can get with that. I can absolutely get with that. Well, man, you guys heard it. Those are the 3. Well, Scottie,
those are the 3. Look them up.
Hey, thank you so much for getting on, man. This was a pleasure.
Hey, absolutely, anytime. And maybe we can do this with all the guys next time. And anything you ever need, man, just holler at me.
Dude, sign me up. Thank you so much, man.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Okay, you too, bro. Thank you.